If y'all talking,
Okay, 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Marvalyn, 10 seconds, okay?
Do I start? Hello and a warm welcome to the global edition of Albinism Talk with Marvalyn, with your host, Marvalyn Green. Now, this year, it is a special year and also special month indeed, because June 13th is World Albinism Awareness Day. So, but before we go further, I would like to introduce our co-host who will be assisting me. Let's welcome Pinky from South Africa. Good evening, Pinky. Pinky, can you hear me? She probably can't hear me. Let's welcome Ruby Ratbasigham from Born to Ratbasigham. She'll be also assisting me on the global talk. Hi, Ruby. Good evening. How are you?
Good day, everyone. I'm well. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And it's a pleasure to see everybody here. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much. Without further ado, this year, albinism awareness for Youth for Change is a bit different. This is the first time we will be having different speakers. We have speakers who are mothers or parents who have albinism, and we have speakers who don't have the condition, but they have children albinism, and we have guests that are not parent, but they're also PWAs as well. Without further ado, I would like to take the time to introduce our speaker. And the first speaker I'm going to call, let's introduce Mo Young. Good evening, Mo. How are you, darling?
Hi, I just have to unmute myself. Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Hello to everyone. I'm sorry, peace and blessings to everybody. For us, it's the afternoon, it's the evening for you guys. So I just want to say thank you for inviting me, and I hope that God will bless me to say words of encouragement to any and everyone listening.
Awesome. Next speaker I'm going to call to the floor. She's no stranger to Y4C, and she was on the Women with Albinism Empowerment Talk. Let's welcome Miss Natalie Devora. Good evening, Natalie.
Hello, everyone. It is a joy and pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Latoya Freeman. Latoya,
hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm glad that I could be a part of this for another year.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's welcome Miss Elizabeth Adams from Nigeria. Good evening, sis.
Good evening. Hello, everyone. It is a delight to be here, and I look forward to building a beautiful conversation with everybody. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, amazing. Some of our speakers are having trouble getting in the room, so I will introduce them later on if they join in. So my name is Marvalyn Green, and I am an advocate and the founder of Yell for Change. Yell for Change is an advocacy cause which spreads the yellow message on albinism awareness. And it's an honor and privilege to be back in the hosting seat again to host another global talk with my brothers and sisters within the albinism world. For those who are streaming with us online, please do the honors to share with your friends and your family. And our moderators, please post the link in the chats for me so they can, the speakers or whoever's in the room can share the link also so others can join in also. Please follow Yell for Change on our socials at Yell for Change, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can find us there. All we do, we spread albinism awareness 24/7, 365 days a year. So without further ado, the time has come to ask some few questions with our speakers today. So we're gonna go right into the albinism journey. And I'm going to ask Elizabeth, Latoya, and Mo. I'm going to ask you a few questions. When you was growing up, when did you notice your skin was different? Who wants to take the initiative?
I'll start because I literally just asked my mom that question because I don't remember noticing a first time noticing. I always remember being aware of it, right? But she says when I was around 2 or 3 is when I asked, because my older brother, literally I'm the only one in my maternal and paternal side of the family with albinism. So I asked why I look different from my brother. And she pretty much let me know that God made me different. This is the way he wanted me to look. As I got older, she began to explain pigment. The first time I remember I was different from everybody else though, and that it felt some kind of way would be in kindergarten. I definitely, because of a bully, because really my mother's explanation was satisfying enough for me to, God said it, so okay, that's fine. I didn't realize that it was a problem for others until entering school. And that's when it became like, okay, I'm really, really different, you know, and as if it was something wrong. So I'll let somebody else answer, but that's my answer. I realized it as a toddler, but I didn't think much of it until I was like school age.
Elizabeth, for you as well, sis?
Oh yes, I would agree with quite a number of points that Mo had shared, and it was about the same thing. I think when I first noticed I was different was when my mom wouldn't allow me go play in the sun like my other siblings, and I would ask why, and then she says, because you're an angel, you're gifted, you're beautiful, and your skin does not need the sun. That was enough for me until one day someone had a quarrel with my mom, I think a neighbor, and the person said to her, keep keeping a white person's child until you become and arrest you for stealing a white person's baby or your other children, because all my siblings, I have 6 other siblings and none of them is a PWA. I was just the only one. So my mom cried and I had to ask her that day. I said, why are they accusing you of having to have stolen me? She said, that's not true. So that was really the first time I understood that I was different. And I feel like going into school was when I knew that maybe something was wrong, because in the family, I was treated the same way as everybody else, and also in the neighborhood. But when I got into school, the difference was clear. Some children would want to bully me, and even teachers. And that was when I knew I was different. Yes.
Toya, for you as well, when did you notice your skin was different?
I don't even, I don't want to say I noticed that my skin was different. Like the ladies before me, in my immediate family, I am the only person with albinism, and I'm the youngest of 4. So, and they're older than me. So I kind of grew up like an only child. I didn't have siblings right there with me on a daily basis. Once I hit kindergarten, 1st grade. But I do remember the first time I noticed I was different, if not my skin, but just my disability. And that was going into the 1st grade. And, you know, they seat you alphabetically. And my last name started with F. And I remember not being able to see the board. And I would constantly sit in class and raise my glasses and lower my glasses, trying to focus. And I wasn't getting any work done. And the teacher then met with my parents. And that was when I was sent over to a school that focused on kids with visual impairments. And even then, it wasn't the albinism that was talked about, because it was never treated like I had albinism. I was just raised like a kid. But it was that at that time that I saw people that looked like me and realized that I stood out in the crowd a little bit, that I'm not like everybody else. It's not just a visual disability. There's something else wrong. The first time my skin played a part in it for me, I would probably have to say shortly after that, when I got my first sunburn. And we realized that just regular sunscreen is not enough, that we have to use something a little stronger.
I can relate to that majority of it as well. Like pretty much like everybody else, noticing my skin was different. I think I was about 3 or 4. I remember, you know, I'm from the Caribbean. Some of you may not know. So I was born in Jamaica, but I raised in the UK. I noticed my skin was different. I remember my mom took me to the beach, and she did her best as she could with my albinism at the time. But I remember getting this severe sunburn as a kid and my arm blistered. That's how I knew my skin was different. And I knew my eyes was more sensitive than normal. And it was really something that was different. But yeah, I can relate to a lot of the stories. I can relate to a lot of it. The next question I'm going to ask for all of you again. When did you discover personally you had albinism?
Okay, so personally, I just want to make sure you're asking that I knew what it was.
Yeah, when did you discover?
Albinism.
When did you? Yeah, so
my mother explained that to me, because
okay.
And this is before I knew the term albinism. I didn't learn that term until I was like 18 or 19.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, I just know that I was an albino. And she explained to me is that Black people come in all colors, and that I didn't have as much melanin as everyone else in my hair and in my skin. I didn't realize that it was my vision was a part of that. I just thought I had low vision. Then as I'm going to say, maybe when I was about 8 or 9, I didn't understand why I had to wear these tinted glasses. I hated the tint on them because I felt like it made me look even more different. And I was just like, can I just wear regular glasses? And the optometrist was like, well, you know, you need that to shield you from the light. It gives you shade from the light and whatnot. And he went on to explain the lack of melanin in the organs of the eye. And that's when everything started to come. So at that point, now I want to know what things are. And now I'm trying to figure it out, look things up on my own. So that's when I knew it was a term to it, I would say. Prior to that, it was like my mother always said albino. I knew it was because I was albino that I had light skin and blonde hair. But I really didn't understand the genetics of it all, as far as both parents having to have the gene. That that my children could possibly be affected, that someone down the line before me may have had it. So that's when I started to understand. I would say maybe about 8 or 9, where I knew what that term really meant. Because albino, to me, it just meant that I was lighter than everybody else. It didn't really mean exactly what it does until I was about 8 or 9.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Elizabeth, when did you discover about the term albinism? When did you discover that?
Okay, the first time I ever heard the word was when someone called me in the streets. So my mom, although she had told me I had a difference in terms of my skin and my sight and my hair from everybody else, there was never a time she told me the name of the condition. So a day I was running an errand and someone just looked at me, a grown up, and said, "Hey, Albino, I'm talking to you." So I wasn't sure it was me. So I asked, "Excuse me, are you referring to me?" He said, "Yes. Are you not an albino?" So when I got home, then I was about 7. So I had to take up a dictionary and I looked up the word and I tried different spellings before I could be sure. Then I looked up the word and realized there was something like that in the dictionary. Of course, at that time, I had no mobile phones, so I couldn't really read up about it. So I just understood that, okay, so there's a term for my condition. So people like me can be called albino, like he called me. And for some reason, I did not like the name. I hated it, and I hated it for a long time. So it took until I was a teenager before I was able to read up about the condition and I understood more about the genetics, all of those things that come with the condition. It took until I was a teenager to understand those. So yes, the first time I ever heard was when I was 7.
If I could jump in, Marvalyn.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Jump in.
I just, I'm listening to everybody and I just wanted to share just how incredibly wonderful it is to hear everyone's stories, because I think even myself growing up, I really only heard about the word albinism or what my condition was when I moved from my country where I was born, Sri Lanka, to when I came to Canada, and I was almost 10 years old. So I think it's so important, that to have everyone, the speakers, as well as everyone on here, to be so candid and share their stories, because the truth is, so many of us, when we're within our family, and it really, it goes to show that often, not all the time, but often when we're in our our family, we are usually often treated similarly to all other siblings, but we don't really recognize our challenges or barriers or differences until we leave our immediate family and go out into the public, into the school system, into social circumstances. So I think it's so important, especially it's nice to see how education and awareness on what Yell for Change is doing in a lot of organizations around the world, United Nations, to kind of bring this education, because there's still a lot of young people out there, who are growing up with albinism, who are young, and they don't know the information. They don't know where to get it. So to have platforms like this and everyone being honest and sharing their stories is just really moving, because I didn't have that information, and technology and social media now allows, we can see just on this platform from London to Africa, to East Asia, to South Asia, to America, just worldwide, that people have access to learn about the condition, and just some of the barriers and challenges, and really where again, like where discrimination starts, and it goes to show that it's usually we're not born with prejudice, we're taught it. So words like albino affected me a lot too growing up. I remember coming to Canada and I was on the bus sometime, and someone would say, "Oh, call me Michael Jackson," or there was when I was young and taking the school bus, and someone said, like, they would call me Marilyn Monroe. Mind you, I guess when I was young, I didn't even see how that was a negative thing, because I was a fan of Michael Jackson and I was a fan of Marilyn Monroe. So I was like, oh, I don't get it. But in their eyes, they were trying to bully or harass or make fun of. So a lot of the confidence, it's really nice to see that there's now grown adults, as everyone on here, sharing their stories that hopefully young people watching or parents watching of children with albinism can build on that confidence. So I just wanted to share that. I think it's just really moving to see everyone speak so openly and candidly.
Pinky, do you want to share as well, sis? You can jump in this conversation as well.
Yeah, I can jump in, Marvalyn. Maybe just before I jump in, I must just highlight to you that Tandiwe is actually in. I've just accepted her.
Welcome,
she just
sis.
joined. It's Tandiwe is just.
Welcome, sis. Welcome. Which she will
Yes.
introduce herself in just after this discussion.
Thank you.
Welcome, Ms. Tandiwe. Okay, so what I wanted to actually say, I think Ruby has just said a mouthful, in terms of, making sure that we create this awareness, for the younger kids who have albinism, or for the parents that are actually having the kids with albinism. Marvalyn, I just wanted to sort of commend you in terms of rallying us around, in terms of addressing this subject or talking about this subject, where we're creating awareness, because I think we all needed that, that global solidarity, in terms of coming up together to say, okay, what can we do about this? Because we can see that it's actually a human rights crisis all over the world. It's not only, in just one country or Africa, if I can put it like that, because there is that myth to say that albinism is much more, in Africa, because we are in Africa, but it's not true. It's all over the world. It's in everyone else, black, white, blue, color, creed, whatever. Even in animals, it's there. So we really need to make sure that we take cognizance of that.
I don't know what happened there. I'm not sure what happened, but the connection. So Tandiwe, good evening.
Hi, hello. I'm so
Hi.
sorry. Yeah, we just came back from load shedding, so everything's just up and down. So that's why you'll hear me and then
No
you don't
worries.
hear me. Yeah.
Oh, you're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. So we're gonna move on to the next segment. I know internet is gonna try and play up. I know Pinky's lost connection just a moment ago. The next discussion we are going to move on to for everyone that's in the room, those ladies again, who is your biggest support? So this applies to you, Mo, Natalie, Liz. Who's your biggest support?
My biggest support is my mom, both my parents, but my mom is my man. She supported me when I was supporting myself. You hear me? When I didn't have my own bag, when I didn't see my own beauty, she stood on that and she demanded that, because she instilled that, God be like at the center of everything. And so making me aware of who God is, making me aware of that I have the right to look like this because God created me this way. And so with that being said, she never allowed for me to show a weakness, so to speak, of it. Like I was not allowed to feel bad for myself. I was not allowed to question why me, why not? Why not? This is how he created you. And she would always say, God wants you to stand for the people like you. And I shied away from it because I feel like, I'm already different. I didn't feel like I wanted to have to explain that or defend that, right, to anybody. And it's now, as at an older age, I'm learning that it's not about defending it. It's about being an advocate. It's about having a voice so that the younger, not just people with albinism, but people who encounter people with albinism. Education is key. And a lot of that is not going to be done unless we do it. This is our fight. This is our battle. This is our journey. And so I would say, that's my hero right there. If it was not for her. She made me strong. She did, and I love her. Her and God. Well, I say God and her. God and her.
Elizabeth, your turn.
Oh, yes, I feel the same way too. My mom is my biggest support. My mom was there when no one else was. So my mom understood me. She taught me the basics of taking care of myself, of understanding my nature. And she did her very best to protect me as much as possible. Also, in terms of my career path, I just feel so comfortable discussing anything with her. So I would say, aside my mom, my younger sister, Princess, is also one of my biggest supports. She's always there when I need someone to talk to, when I need someone to share my fears with. And my best friend and partner, he's always been supportive. He's always there to help me reach for my goals and support me when I need that much support. So I would say all these three people I have mentioned are like the most important part of my albinism journey. They have been there and they understand me to a level where almost nobody else does. And one of the reasons I also became a teacher is because of this, my condition. So I got so much bullying from my teachers. There were times when my teachers would call me names. So just like the last, someone was saying, she was called Michael Jackson and so many other names. So my teachers would call me horrible names, so many names, and they were very mean to me. So I had thought that I needed to be a teacher too, so I could change that narrative in the space of learning, in the learning space. I did not think anybody deserved as much hatred as I got from most of my teachers while growing up. So yes, that also aligned with my path. And I remember when I first told my mom I wanted to be a teacher, away from most of the mindset that many Nigerian parents would have around you want to be a teacher, and how over here in Nigeria, teaching is not exactly a job many parents want their children to do when there are other lucrative platforms. She was very supportive. She asked again if I wanted that and why. So when I explained my reasons, and that was it for her, she supported it. So my mom has been that person who supports every of my goals. She asks why, she gives clarity when needs be, she gives her advice, and she makes sure that she cheers me up even when I am down. So she's my biggest support.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that discussion. I'm going to switch it up a bit because some of the speakers are not here. We're going to talk about Break the Silence now. I remember some of you was listening to Empowerment Talk back in March, and this theme it's a powerful theme to me, because it's always talking about breaking the silence of a lot of things. And I'm going to hand over this discussion to Pinky. Pinky, are you ready, sis? Oh, she can't turn on her video. Okay. We're gonna talk about break the silence discussion. She'll jump in. Ruby, do you mind taking over this session as Pinky comes
Absolutely.
on? Break the silence.
Yes, I think if you've been to any of the other talks with Marvalyn and myself, this is something, breaking the silence and advocating for people with albinism and our enjoyment of human rights is so important to me. And I think this year's motto and this year's theme of inclusion is strength, and the importance of breaking the silence is something that I'm so vocal about. We come from different parts of the world, but I think one thing that we need to do is to break the silence. Discrimination over people with albinism continues to exist in places like Africa. People are still can continue to lose their lives. We've heard of issues where young men and women are still losing their lives or losing their limbs because of superstition. It's also important to know that in places like Canada, in America, in the UK, we face discrimination for employment opportunity. We face discrimination about access to education. Something that I'm very strong about, and I know Marvalyn, I mentioned this to her and the United Nations. I just filed a human rights complaint with the province of Ontario for discrimination based on disability by my employer. And my employer is the largest school board in Canada. So we are responsible for informing and educating future generations. And when there's discrimination at such a large scale, we need to speak up. We need to break the silence. We need to advocate, whether individually or collectively. We need to break the silence of what discrimination looks like. So not just for us, but future generations of young people, they don't go through some of the barriers that we have faced as young people or continue to face, that young people have access to education. I believe strongly in education. And I think that, you know, education and having young people with albinism access education is so important, because that will lead to our economic independence, that will lead to employment, that will lead that will lead to future opportunities for us. And if we are discriminated against and we don't speak up, we don't break that silence, we can never change the future of what albinism looks like. So I think it's important, and a great start has been obviously the International Albinism Awareness is finally recognized at a global scale. 2015, it was officially recognized by the United Nations. So I would really advocate for everyone on this platform and everyone listening, speak to your leaders so that they can bring International Albinism Awareness Day as something that's within your community, because the more we speak about it, the more we break our silence, the more opportunities that we create for ourselves, as well as young people, to enjoy some of the things that are just basic human rights, to work, to live, to play in our communities safely and independently with, you know, success. So it's something that's important to me. I think breaking our silence and speaking up is important for inclusion.
Sitandewe, I'm going to bring you onto this discussion. What is your view about breaking the silence?
Yes, hi everyone. I believe for myself it's mainly exactly what the previous speaker has just said now. And as well, if you think about it, for myself, being a parent with a child with albinism, it rests with us here at home to make sure that the people that are out there, they understand the uniqueness that our people have got. And as she said as well, I believe that human rights are very important. And people have got to get to understand exactly that, to say everyone has got a right to a life, and everybody has got, obviously everybody will not reason the same way that we reason. However, if we include them, like I'll just tell you a small story. There is a piece that my daughter has written, and I'm saying to her that the only way that you can get people to understand your uniqueness is to involve them, you know. So for her to be able to speak. So I said to her, on the 13th of June, it's always an IAAD day. So make sure that you take your piece, give it to your teacher, let the teacher speak to your marketing department. Maybe the marketing department is going to put it into their school portfolio or something like that, so that you can say that I've left something here, and with me showing it to them, this is what the entire community in my school learned about the people with albinism. So it's a matter of finding the people close to us to understand what it is. So I've been this kind of a person who makes sure that wherever I go, I make it known that I'm a mother to my daughter, and this is what we do for my daughter, with the hope that as she grows, she's going to be able to also stand up for herself, of which she started already. So for me, I think having to speak to everybody and everybody to understand exactly where we're at, and not only giving you that platform, but also us as the people that are raising them, to be able to make sure that everybody understands that we feel and understand what everybody else is feeling. So having to speak about it everywhere, we are including everybody. And we just, for some reason, I believe that we shouldn't be emotional when we try to put our points across, but for the people to understand where we're coming from and putting them in our shoes so that they can understand exactly that not everybody is the same. The uniqueness in everyone is making a difference.
Natalie, can you join in this discussion as well? Natalie Devora?
Absolutely. It's one of the things that I feel like what's important is that the worldview and the awareness about albinism has grown significantly. You know, what it was, which was virtually non-existent when I was growing up, to where we are now with so much information that is readily available. I feel the responsibility of my personal responsibility and the responsibility that we all have is to be able to really lead the way. And in as much as when I consider the disability community and the movement here in the United States, you know, here albinism isn't considered a disability. However, our vision, our visual acuity and visual impairment is the disability. And it's a matter of really being able to speak to that, to speak to making sure that we are our own advocates when possible, and when we are parents, to teach our children by initially being their advocates and teaching them how to self-advocate in order to be able to get their needs met and to be able to really ensure that they have a voice in their education, that they have a voice in their lives.
Natalie, I just wanted to, I think you made such a great point, and I just wanted to reiterate that I think it's so important to differentiate between albinism as a disability and you know, our vision loss as its related disability. I think in so many places, albinism is still looked at as the disability, or as you know, the quote unquote disease, or something. In many countries, it's still looked on as that way. And I think as we start to advance in society, I think you're right, in places like America, where you know, we can, people with albinism who are considered visually impaired can have access to driving. In places like Canada, where I'm in, we just passed that law. And so we're very slowly going, you know, and it's still quite a ways before people with albinism in Canada can drive. But you made a point that it's so important, the more education and awareness we bring, that it's not the condition itself that's the disability, but the vision loss that's a disability. And I think it's important for countries to recognize that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Amazing. Pinky, are you here now?
Yes.
Do you have anything to?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, no, perfectly. Yeah, I think a lot has been said while I was actually thrown out by the internet. But yeah, it's a subject that is actually very close to my heart, you know, when it comes to breaking the silence, because what I've experienced, or what I've observed, you know, in the country that I live in, which is South Africa, is a point. Is the fact that, you know, you still find people that are still mocking, you know, people with albinism. You still find parents that have children with albinism that are still hiding their kids. And they don't even have access to education, those kids. which is quite, I don't know, it's very heart-wrenching for me, because I believe that everybody must have an equal opportunity when it comes to the quality of education and having access, to everything, that we're fighting for. If you don't regard me as a human being, then that means I don't have any human rights. When are we going to stop? So breaking the silence for me is very much, crucial that we come together as we are coming together right now together, in terms of, having a collective voice to say, we are humans, treat us as human beings. It's so sad that I can actually share, some news of one of the ladies who's been an activist as well in one of the closest country in South Africa, which is Botswana. Her name is Betty Mutlanyane, who was actually stabbed by her husband, to death.
Jesus.
Yeah. So unfortunately, this lady died on the 24th of May. She was stabbed by the husband, and it's quite sad, to see that we are still haunted like animals. We are still not being recognized as human beings. And I think in honoring her soul to rest in peace, I would like us to have maybe like a few moments of silence, just in remembering, her and everybody that has been killed, just because of the color of our skin. Just a few seconds.
Yeah, can we all do a 2-minute silence for, because I was going to bring that up as well, funny, even though we are celebrating IAAD, but let's not forget those who have lost their lives to the brutal attacks within our community, and also those who have been affected, or who've lost an arm or a limb, or just been, they're in fear of their lives until this day. So can we all just do a 2-minute silence? Josh, can you start the countdown for us and let us know when to start? Yeah, that was very appropriate. Thank you, Pinky, for that. Latoya, do you have anything to add regarding breaking the silence?
I think the biggest thing we can do to break the silence is a lot of what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Coming together as men and women from all over that have albinism, and talking to not just each other, but putting it out there for everyone else to see. Just to backtrack a little bit, when you mentioned, when did you know about albinism in general? I knew the word albino, but I didn't know what albinism was. And this was back before Google. So at my age, I'm still learning some things because I didn't have that access to just run to Google and look up and see what, this part of my visual impairment meant, what melanin, lack of melanin in the eyes meant, what lack of melanin in the hair meant. I didn't get to know any of that. So even as an adult with adult children now, I'm still learning the different things that have to do with albinism. So to be able to come together like this and hold these conversations and share our stories, and then to put it back out into the world for those without albinism to see and hear is one of the biggest ways that we can accomplish this. I think the other thing that we also have to do as people with albinism, and I know it's something that can be a little hard, because I know it's hard for me, is to answer the questions that people have. I cannot tell you how many times I get tired of hearing people talk about when I tell them that I don't drive because of my vision or whatever reason, and the first thing they say is, "Can you see me?" And I have to then go into a whole spiel. I have to go into a whole
I see all the heads nodding. You have it.
About my vision and what my vision is, and how, well, I wouldn't have known you were an albino if you hadn't have said anything. That's fine. That's great. But I am what I am. And again, I get tired of asking those questions, answering those questions, but I have to. Because if I don't answer them and answer them properly, who knows where they're going to get their information from? And it's going to all be wrong. So it's up to us to put ourselves out there and open ourselves up and answer those questions for people so that they get the right understanding of who we are and what we go
100%.
through.
100%.
I think Elizabeth says she's got a goal in a while, so I'm going to give her the opportunity to speak. Elizabeth, I see your hand was up, so the floor is yours.
Oh, okay. So I was going to jump in. I like the idea of collectivism, and I see how persons with albinism are coming together on a global platform to create that level of enlightenment, of awareness that's needed for people to understand our condition and who we are. Also, I would like to add that I feel like a major step to breaking this silence could be trying it out with the education. Maybe because I am an educator, so my thoughts would mostly tilt towards that direction. However, I feel like if children are taught in schools at a younger age about the differences that exist and how we should respect that differences, I feel like that would go a long way in raising adults who are already aware of these differences that exist and are willing to respect how other people appear. So I got lots of bullying mainly from school, as I earlier said, especially from teachers. So we're having even those who are supposed to be caregivers and teachers not understanding the condition. So how do we expect other children who are not persons with albinism too? So we've had cases, especially in Nigeria, like the person from South Africa was saying. I feel like Africa is still has a long way to go in terms of meeting up with other parts of the world in some of these things. So we're having cases of discrimination where a neighbor could tell a child not to play with another child who is a child with albinism. So they say things like, "Don't play with that girl. I don't want you hanging around this person. You're not supposed to be friends with her. She has a disease. She has." So some of them even think that albinism is contagious at this point where we're having cases where sometimes I'll be walking down the road and a pregnant woman might say something like, "Come and touch my belly so you give some fairness to my baby." Or it goes the other way around. "Don't come close to me. I don't want a child like you." So I see these things. And then in Yoruba language, we hear some of them would say something like "Ogun owo." So in translation, the meaning of Ogun owo is an ingredient for wealth. So when I walk by, imagine me walking by, going somewhere, and somebody just shouts "Ogunwowo" to me. You can imagine how I cringe. Like, okay, I would, if this person had a chance to get a hold of me in a place where nobody was looking, what do you think that person would do to me? So you being able to say Ogunwowo openly just clearly shows what you do to me if you could get me secretly. So these are most of the things we experience, especially in Africa. And I feel like if we can really have it in some of the laws or rights that states that schools should start having trainings or teachings around different uniqueness and specialties of persons, I feel that would help a long way. It would really go a long way. Yeah, so thank you.
Can I just add to this story as well? Like, you know, so for me, breaking the silence about educating, and you know, I grew up from a loving family, and I'll share a bit of my story as well. You know, in Jamaica, they call us dundus, right? They call us dundus, but I did not know the term dundus until I've done Albinism Talk podcast over a year ago. And the person told me what it meant in her language, and it meant white ghost. My husband despised that word so much, right? He hates that word. You know, if you say that in front of him, he doesn't like it. One of the things that we need to talk about breaking the silence is about getting yourself educated enough to understand something that you don't understand. And I'm not saying you can't educate everybody, but for those who want to be educated, educate those who wish to be educated. And for me growing up, you know, I had family members that bullied me. Some of them did not want to walk on the side of the road with me. Some of them don't want to invite me to parties or don't want to associate with myself. And in my teenage years was horrible. You know, as a female, you're going through your changes, right? Your hormone change and everything. And I had breakouts. So teenage spots, acne, the whole lot, plus albinism on top of that. You know, it took a toll on my self-esteem. I hated my blonde hair. I hated everything about albinism. I didn't want to know more about albinism because of the bullying that I received. And, you know, where some people might make fun of my glasses. There was an incident where obviously, you know, when you're younger, your eyesight is worse, okay? Like your eyesight, you know, when you're a kid, your eyes is more sensitive than normal, right? So I must have hit into the lamppost and they laughed at me and that made me cry. I went into like I said to my mom that, Mom, why do I look like this? I want to look like you. I want to look like you, and why am I being teased for what I am? But it wasn't my Jamaican side. Is when I came to the UK. This is when I experienced all of this stuff. I didn't experience this when I was back home in the Caribbean. I experienced all of this type of stigma within the UK. Does any of our speakers want to add before we close this session? Because I'm going to call Shelby Garrison to sing for us. We're going to take a break.
I wanted to add just one thing. I feel like you all did a great job of everything that you've said. For me, I really feel like our young people, what you were just speaking about, the teenagers, the young girls who aren't able, especially I grew up in the 80s, we didn't see this. You didn't see it, you didn't hear about it, no one spoke really about it. You have to really go out and see it. I'm very grateful for social media. It gives a platform to any and everyone who wants one and to speak about what they want to. So I think it's beautiful that there's so many of us that are advocates, that are speaking up, that are saying this is what I am, that are talking about the visual impairment. So that just needs to keep going, and to parents who have children to make sure that they have that representation, that they have access to that representation, because confidence is everything. If you're not confident, able to advocate for yourself, no one else will. If you don't love yourself, no one else can. And for them to understand that self-love is not, it's something we battle with due to the hatred and the venom that's spit at us on a daily basis by our own people, complete strangers. But every one of us as human beings have issues with our confidence. And so letting your child know that not only are they not alone in their albinism, but everybody's trying to find themselves, and that a lot of the things that are being thrown at them are projections, and that is a projection. You have to accept that. And the moment that you put your wall up, that wall of confidence, that wall of strength and faith, then you won't be so easily broken. And so for me, that's what's important to me, is that we not be broken in the spirit, because you get so broken and then you get used and abused because you don't know your worth. So that's all I wanted to add to that, is that is as far as everything goes, that's my most, because we have accommodations, we have, you know, things out here for the disabled, but there is nothing saying to them, you have to put this shield around yourself and you have to be strong within yourself. Nobody else can give you that. That's what I want to say. Nobody can give you that. So when you have a child with albinism, make sure that you strap them with a knowledge of God, strap them with a knowledge of who they are, where they come from, so that they are able to bloom. Despite whatever little shade comes about, they're going to find the sun. And that's all. I'm sorry for getting so loud, but
It's all right. No.
It hurts me to know so many. I know how I felt coming up. I had a bit of a different strength, but to know someone would take their own life because of something that, you know, is being done to them by something outside themselves, that hurts. And that's what it's about for me, is us loving and knowing who we are.
Thank you so much for
I think,
sharing that.
yeah.
That's so, you know, if I can, and I know I keep this is such a moving event, and if I can just share, like,
Yes, sure.
you're so right. Well, there, you know, our ability to cope with through the adversity, through the hardships, is so important, and not everyone has the ability to cope through challenging times. And the truth is, and I want, you know, people do find themselves in a place where they consider taking their lives. And I wanted to reiterate that. Something I wanted to share on the note of IAAD is, and I can read this out to you. The report published by the 72nd session on the United Nations General Assembly in 2017 states that for people with albinism, reduced life expectancy may also be due to other factors such as lack of accommodation, reasonable accommodation regarding their visual impairment. So it is out there. It is out there. It is statistically there that people with albinism face reduced life expectancies. So we are at a risk of having a less enjoyable life, a reduced average life expectancy because of discrimination, simply because we are born a certain way. And it is so important. And I come from a place of education and social work myself. It is so important to acknowledge that. It's so important to acknowledge self-care, that we, not just for ourselves, that we teach other children to have confidence, to build, like Mo said, like Pinky said, and many of other people shared, the ability to get past some of the challenges and barriers that other people project onto us, because they have their own challenges and barriers and insecurities. Because if we allow people to tear us down because of the skin that we cannot change, because of God, us, we will face a lower life expectancy. We will face health issues. And one of the things that I encourage people to do as IAAD approaches International Albinism Awareness Day, this is globally recognized. Please connect with your local board of education. Every board of education mostly has significant days that they celebrate. There's a list of significant days. I mean, they have all kinds of significant days that they recognize. Advocate for Albinism Awareness Day to be included in there, because if education is included, and if boards of education, schools introduce it, they can teach adults, they can teach teachers, and they can educate, and they pass it on to children. And children who learn to not discriminate at a young age, and it's not just even though albinism awareness is just one condition, but by teaching children about humanity, about caring, about empathy, about how to not discriminate and how to understand the different uniqueness of other children, they will grow up to be adults who do not discriminate. And so the barriers that the barriers that we face will end over time. So I encourage everyone to voice your voice at your, excuse me, at your local school board, voice your ability and ask them to include Albinism Awareness Day in their significant days, because it's little trickles like this that will change the world.
Let's welcome Fanata Josu. She was one of our speakers, she had problems coming in. Fanata, I'm going to add you onto this discussion. Do you like to introduce yourself and please talk about Break the Silence in your own view about this discussion? Fanata?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. What is your view about breaking the silence for where you are? You're tuning in from Sierra Leone, is that correct?
Yes, really.
Okay.
For me, my own view from of breaking the silence, one, like it makes you feel safe. It makes you feel safe. It is all well and good for us and for our children for breaking the silence. Like, we have to take our time, and vulnerable, we have to be aware of certain things, because there are certain countries that I find it difficult to feel among and to feel belong in the society. And I thank God for the sensitization, for the advocacy in Sierra Leone. Like, we are coming out as a parent, and the children are coming out and to speak to people about themselves. They are really bold, that they don't take like things for granted. Not everything they will put to their own mind. First, there was no school for them, but thank God now, due to SWAPA, they are really doing their best to advocate for them. And for me, breaking the silence is much more good, although it's challenging. It's really challenging in breaking the silence, because you have to take your time, the mutual, and it is very vital.
Absolutely, it's important. It's important that we are taking this time in this discussion to share our views. Thank you so much, everyone. Before I move on, does anyone else want to add to break the silence before we move on?
I just wanted to add, Marvalyn, I just wanted to add, I'm not sure if you guys can actually hear me.
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to add, I think Elizabeth touched on a very important point in terms of the awareness, creating an awareness, at schools, starting from the schools. I have a little bit of a different view. It's not totally off from what she was saying, but I strongly believe that from a pregnancy period, when a mother is pregnant, because they do attend hospitals and clinics, local clinics, where they actually go, to do some checkups, when they are pregnant. I strongly believe that education can start from there, teaching the parents to be about people with albinism or children with albinism. How do you take care of that child? How do you then, mold that child to have some form of like confidence, in themselves? As much as they are different with the skin color, but they shouldn't believe that they are different, totally or completely different from the other children. That's why I was actually talking about access, rights, access to education, because we all believe in quality of education, that everybody must have quality of education. So I think if it comes from there, from the parents while they are pregnant, the mothers are pregnant. We all in South Africa, or maybe, I don't know, maybe in other countries as well. In South Africa, we also have things like community forums where you can actually have the community, all together at once, where you bring up these subjects. We shouldn't actually, I don't know, I feel like this subject is very much segregated. But if we ourselves we take the initiative to say, in those community forums that you guys are holding for whatever reasons, we are going to talk about albinism as well. In that way, you basically penetrating each and every person or each and every individual, in the society, so that people are aware, because it starts from the adults. I can say that the child that is bullying the other one that has albinism, that child has learned from an adult, because that's where it starts. We need to make sure that our adults, people or people that are older, they are much aware of the subject when they're talking about albinism. What is albinism? What is totally different about a person that has albinism and not albinism? Because it's only just the melanin part. That's the only thing that is basically different. Any other things, we have capabilities. We are able to think on our feet. We can do anything that anyone can do, except for the fact that maybe some of us have limitations in terms of, driving, but we are living in an advanced world right now where there is anything and everything that you can possibly, get your hands on in terms of ensuring that you get your driver's license and you are able to drive. So I think it starts from a very, not really from a childhood stage, but from the parents themselves and the society at large. That's what I believe in.
Absolutely. I just think that I think there's so much to even bask on, but this is why when I done Albinism, the empowerment talk in March, I said to myself, oh man, there's more to unpack with this break the silence discussion, because there's a lot to really unpack when it comes to stigma, when it comes to everything that is negative around albinism. And we want to break the stigma and break the silence. And we want to make this whole thing of stigmatization of the past and moving forward to be positive for a future generation that's coming up after me, after Pinky, after Natalie, and so forth. We're going to take a 10-minute break. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and I'm going to ask Shelby. Get ready. You ready, Shelby? Welcome, Shelby Garrison. How are you, darling? Is she in? I'm not sure if she's here. I'm not sure if she's here. I did see her in the chat. She needs to unmute. Shelby, you need to unmute your mic.
Oh. Hey.
Good evening, Shelby.
How are you?
How are you, darling? You're going to sing for us whilst we are on a break. So have you got your 2 songs ready?
Well, I know I had 1, but I didn't know I was supposed to do 2, but okay.
2 will be nice. I'm just being generous right now. I'm being generous.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well,
over to you, Shelby.
Oh, just bear with me. I'm recovering from surgery.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah.
Bless you. Take all the time.
Okay. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. I just want to thank you, Lord. You've been so good. You've been so good. You've been so good. I just want to thank you, Lord. You made a way. You made a way. You made just want to thank you, Lord.
Shelby, you still there? Carry on.
I'm still here.
Carry on, carry on. We're enjoying that. Carry on.
Amazing.
I love you. I love you. I love you, Lord, today, because you care for me in such a special way. And yes, I praise you. I lift you up and I magnify your name. That is why my heart is filled with praise. My heart, my mind, my soul belongs to you, because you died for me way back on Calvary. I praise you, I lift you up, and I magnify your name. That is why my heart is filled with praise. I love you, I love you, I love you, Lord, today, because you care for me in such a special way. That's why I praise you. I lift you up and I magnify your name. That is why my heart is filled with praise.
Can everybody unmute your mic and just clap
Shelby,
for, can all the
that is
speakers just unmute your mic and just clap
beautiful. Oh
for
my
her?
gosh.
Can all the speakers unmute your mics and just clap for Shelby? Please clap for Shelby. Everybody that's a speaker, just clap for her, please. Clap
Thank
for
you.
her.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That was a good break.
That was a good one.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Wow.
Nice
Wow.
voice.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
I think we all needed that kind of pick me up, and
Yeah.
after such a heavy talk. Thank you so much, Shelby.
Thank you
You're
so much,
welcome.
Shelby.
All
And
the
I hope
glory
that
to
you get
God.
well. Hope you get
Yes.
well.
Yes.
Hope
Is
you get
that my
well.
Shelby from Instagram, Shelby?
Yes.
Is that
Yeah.
you? And you be saying me and you look just alike, baby. That's you. Oh
Yes.
my God. I was wondering. I'm like, Stacey, you do. I'm looking at you sing like she do look just like me. And my mom even said it. You are so brave. I love you, man.
Oh, she is.
Oh my God.
Wow. Wow. You know, as a part of advocacy, it's the 4 E's of Yell for Change. And we want to empower each other, enlighten each other, encourage each other, educate each other. That's what it's the 4 E's of Yell for Change is all about. And I kind of, when I put out this talk for albinism awareness, I was like, I said, God, I want this talk. I don't want to say I'm nervous. I want this talk, others will leave blessed, others to feel revived, refreshed, learn, educate, everything. And so far, in the last hour or so, I have learned. I ain't had no tears yet, but I can truly say that it's important that, just because we have albinism doesn't mean that everybody's story is the same. Everybody come from different backgrounds. Some people had upbringings that maybe they never had the stigma, or they never had, certain things. Some are blessed and some are not blessed. Some are fortunate and some are not fortunate. Some people didn't have mums and dads. Some were adopted. Some parents even neglect or abandon their kids because of albinism. And this is one of why I say about breaking the silence, about educating and to bring awareness to the table of albinism, and also to just be inspired by us, because we all stars, y'all. Come on now. And if you're proud of yourself, man, in the chat, please pump the yellow hearts in there. If you're, pump the yellow hearts, if you're streaming with us online, Facebook and YouTube, please pump the yellow hearts and just drop some yellow love. We're spreading the yellow message. And we're not going to try and focus so much about the negative all the time. We're going to stay positive and we're going to embrace our beautiful skin. We're going to celebrate albinism like never before. I just feel that it doesn't matter what background you are. When you have albinism, and if you learn to embrace yourself and you walk in that confidence, then you don't need to worry about the naysayers. You don't need to worry about the negatives. You keep your head high. You hold your head up high. Oh, wow. Thank you, Shelby. Thank you. We're going to move on now. And I'm going to bring Natalie. Fanata. Elizabeth had to rush because she had another appointment. Fanata, Natalie, and Latoya, please join this. We're going to talk about the inclusion. So bring change to inclusion. That's the next theme. Now, ladies, I want your opinion about this. Why do you think inclusion is essential within the albinism community? Who wants to
Why do we think inclusion is essential?
Yes.
Think of it this way. When you were growing up, and we talked about how, some of us didn't see people like us on a daily basis, but we had heroes, so to speak, that we looked up to. Actresses, actors, singers, dancers, things of that sort. How many of us thought to ourselves, I can do that. I can sing, I can dance, I can act. But because we were different, it kept us from pursuing certain dreams and from doing certain things. Now, as adults, we talked about, breaking the silence and showing kids, that it's okay, there's nothing wrong with you for being an albino, having albinism. Inclusion has to be full circle. So as a person with albinism, if I am doing something that is different in the world, or even something that is the same, if I'm acting, I'm singing, I'm dancing, I have my own business, I need to be able to put myself out there and show people with albinism that may be younger than me, or even the same age, that don't hinder yourself. We are out here. We are doing big things. We are accomplishing these goals. We're going back to school. We're furthering our education. We're becoming doctors and lawyers and dentists and teachers and all of these things. We need to show that we are included in this world and we are a part of it, and we are going to stand out. So
yes, indeed.
But we stand out for a grand reason, because we are great. We are not just albinism. We are people. So don't be ashamed to tell the world the big things that you're doing, and to show those, not just that don't have albinism, but especially to those that do have albinism, that you don't have to hinder yourself. If you dream it, you can achieve it, as they say. Same goes for us. We are no different than anybody else. But the easiest way they're going to accept that is to actually see us doing that.
Fanata?
And for me, and why is the change to inclusion is important? First of all, is to battle the discrimination against people with albinism. Like it creates awareness in the society for the people. I have 2 kids with albinism. One is biological and the other one is adopted. Because change for inclusion was not in their own community, then it was hard for that child to survive there. That was the reason I took him from the community. So for me, it's very important. It doesn't matter your skin color. You should show your skills. No matter if you are albinism, but anything that you want to do, you can do it. As long as you are breathing, we all have the same rights. We are breathing the same air. It's just that some are fortunate, some are unfortunate. Because the fortunate ones are the ones that are showing their talent but the ones that are unfortunate, they can't because of there is no change of inclusion in their community, in the society for some of them. So for me, it's very, very much important because it's back to discrimination. That's a key word for me. Back to discrimination against those that are albinism, and it creates the awareness, which is the most important thing.
Sitandiwe, I'm going to add you in, and Natalie, what's your view about inclusion? Why do you think it's essential? Yep. So Sitandiwe, sorry, I almost pronounced your name wrong, please forgive me. Sitandiwe and Natalie, in your opinion, why is it essential for inclusion within the Albinism community?
I think I missed half of what you said. I don't know what happened to my speaker.
So
however,
she's asking Sandiwe, why do you think it's important? Why do you think that inclusion is important for albinism?
Okay. For me, I think if everybody is made aware of everyone with their uniqueness, it's going to make sure that everybody knows how to accept that everyone is unique in their own way. So it's very important. I think for me, having been exposed to my daughter, I was able to then have other mothers who have got children with albinism who we are teaching each other whatever it is that is there to know. So it had to start by us having children in order for us to be to understand and include everybody else around us, because every opportunity that we get, we make sure that we go and we make it known that there are people with albinism and how they go about accepting, so to speak, accepting that not everybody is going to be the same. However, make people that understand exactly as well as to how to go around these people with albinism. So I believe that it starts at home. I normally would speak to people outside of my house, somewhere outside, to say that if a parent is talking somehow in the house, their children mimic whatever the parents are saying or whatever they are doing. And if they are not, so if they are not advocating, so to speak, whatever it is that we try to let out there, it becomes very hard for us to have these people. However, if we include them everywhere and tell them exactly how it's going, then I believe that we can make a better society ourselves by making sure that we give it out there. So these small groups that we formulate to speak, then it becomes better because everybody then gets to hear what you want to tell. And also it mustn't end with us trying to all the time speak, but use our kids to make sure that when they go there, we instill the confidence that they're able to talk and say whatever it is that they want to say at that point in time, and allowing them as well to ask questions and not push them away. Like for instance, if I was to be in an environment where there are other kids that do not understand, because kids are very innocent, so they stare. When they stare, they've got this thing that they want to understand, why is this person like this? Why is this happening like this? So if we do not hide that information, but use that opportunity to educate and make sure that you include them. So for myself, it started when they were young. So I would go to the school and I would tell the teachers, this is what I've realized with my child. Is it possible that you can put my child in the front so that they are able to see at the board and whatever? Then you get those teachers that were really not aware as to how to approach you. But if you go there and speak to them, it makes them realize that in the actual sense, I was waiting for you to speak to me. But for me to say to them, can you please tell me if there are any certain things that are a problem, just let me know. So it's a matter of how you accept, how you deliver, and how you make yourself heard or listened to is very important. So when you start them at a young age, and also including the teachers, including the community. I've got a very big family. With my family, it's not just, I'm not talking about my parents and my siblings. I'm talking about my cousins and everybody around me, my colleagues that I work with, because we've become a family. Because I would say, this is what is happening. So when I'm sitting with my colleagues, we'll be talking about albinism out of nowhere. And they will say to me, I had to have my daughter for me to understand how it is like I put myself in her shoes. When she comes to me and complains and says, this is what happened at school, then I have to put myself in there. If I can do it for my child, how can I not do it for the child next door who is going through the same? Because it's a matter of, you are just making sure that you are seen and you are visible and you are present, and you are going to make sure that each and every time that you are there, people notice. And that I see in my daughter now, because every time things happen, then she would say, this is what is happening, blah, 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 you know? So it's a matter of breaking, I think for me, having to break this silence and then try and take this silence in not a negative way, but in a way that you're including everybody. You tell everybody, this is what is happening. And while this is happening, this is what we're going to do so that we're going to make it better for everybody else around me. Because as much as we've got rights, there are times as well that we are not able to exercise those rights perfectly, because obviously everybody has got their own rights in a certain way. However, where I stand, it's a matter of, for anything for me that has got to do with albinism, because this is what I'm exposed to, I will make sure that everybody gets that information and that everybody eats that information. I'm sorry, this is so close to my heart that every time I have to speak about it, I can't stop. So please stop me whenever I
No, it's all good. You know, it's fine.
Go
It's fine.
on.
No, I was actually enjoying this, man. I'm really enjoying this this talk, because, you know, it's important that you make your voice be heard. It's not about who can speak the longest or whatnot. It's about making your voice be heard. Thank you, Sitandewe, for that. I hope I pronounced your name right? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Pinky, for actually introducing me to this amazing soul. Thank you so much. We're gonna move on.
Marvalyn?
Yes.
May I?
Oh yeah,
actually...
yeah.
Okay.
Natalie, yes.
Thank you so much. I believe that it's inclusivity and representation are critical. I believe that, especially within the albinism community, on every level, locally as well as globally, when we are making decisions, it is really absolutely a requirement that people with albinism be a part of that discussion of decision making. And again, that really speaks to when you are a parent with a child with albinism, that really teaching your child to self-advocate from an early age, and then they have a voice. One of the things that struck me when I interviewed the current independent expert on albinism, Ms. Maluka Miti Drummond, is really a big part of her platform is nothing about albinism without people with albinism.
Right.
So it is really her commitment as the independent expert to ensure that any decision making about policy, about anything, directly is involved with people with albinism. And while we do get to make a significant difference, it is important to also welcome our allies into this movement with us. Because there may be opportunities where someone hears something different or hears it in a different fashion from someone who may not have albinism, and yet someone who is committed to ensuring that the rights of persons with albinism are represented and honored. So that's
Awesome.
my insight.
Anybody else want to add to that?
That is awesome what you've just said, Natalie. I'm going to say this. What I've actually noticed when it comes to the inclusion part, Marvalyn, that I think you were focusing on that as to what does it mean? What does inclusion mean for people with albinism? I don't know. Maybe for me, I've been very, very fortunate. In terms of the organizations that I've worked for, where I have one person that just doesn't, I'm one person that is very vocal. And I think for that, it has actually put me in sort of like a pedestal, if I can put it like that, to say that, I've always been receiving a reasonable accommodation when it comes to the organizations that I've worked for. At school, yes, I struggled because I don't think we had parents that are like Standiwe right now who actually could, who are bold enough to actually go to the teachers and just explain, what is happening with their children. I didn't have that privilege, which is actually quite good, for the parents now to actually do that. So I didn't have that. But at varsity, when I was at varsity or university, that's when I actually started to sort of like, if I don't talk for myself, nobody will. If I don't stand up for myself, nobody will. So that's when I started to say, I need to be part of everything that is actually taking place. I need to be included. Whatever that is going on, include me in those things, whether it's group discussions, whether it's an assignment, a group assignment. I used to fight for my voice to be heard. It's exactly the same thing as well with the organizations that I'm working for. I think the last one that I'm in right now has actually, I think they've outdone themselves in terms of providing me with a reasonable accommodation when it comes to the large screens. I think I have like a 32-inch screen that I work on because I'm in HR, I'm in human resources. So for me, that it went a long way, because I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe, that I'm being recognized, I'm being, understood in terms of the disability that I have, because whether we like it or not, our being visually impaired, it is a disability. So for me, it meant a lot that, I actually have been included, in this organization. I'm part of this organization. I feel at home, because remember, in the companies that we work for, that's where we spend most of our times. We don't spend much time at home, but we spend most of our time in the organizations that we work for. So for you to be accepted, to be included, it really means a lot. It really means a lot. What I don't like, what that I'm observing in other organizations when it comes to people with albinism, is the fact that they don't recognize, the ability that you have or the capability that you have. There's something, I don't know whether I can say it's like a disease, to me, where, our organizations in South Africa, they only think that people with albinism are not required to be employed. They're only good for just the learnerships. A learnership can be 1 year or 2 years, and that's it. It's over. And they're not going to accommodate you. They're not going to absorb you in the organization. I remember when I was in the presidential summit last year, actually, no, not last year, this year in February, we spoke about this at length, at length, because we were asking, why are we not being recognized as people with albinism? Why is this a segregated disability? Why are we good for the learnerships only? Why are we not good for being employed, permanently employed? It's the questions that still needs to be answered, because it's still continuing. It's still continuing, and it's not right. So inclusion for me, I think it's a little bit, it hurts me, because I see a lot of our people in the community struggling, to get to be employed, to get to be absorbed in the organizations. So those are the things that we need to make sure that we become very robust about them, So yeah, that's basically what I wanted to share in terms of inclusion.
Yeah.
I could, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Like, okay.
Go ahead. Who wants to go first? Go for Natalie. Go ahead, Natalie.
Yeah. Like the other speaker was saying, inclusion is very important. Yes. And they are not putting attention on these children. For me, I'm talking for the children because I have them. One of the reasons why I adopted the one child is because there was no inclusion for him in the society. And even the family rejected him because of his color scheme. They were not taking care of him, no schooling. And for Australian, there is no extra. And for children with albinism, I have to stand for my children. I have to stand for them in the community. I have to stand for them in the schools. I have to go there and talk to them that, look, my children are visual. They are not okay visually. So you have to treat them special, because they are children with special needs when they are attending school. They can't see far from the board. They can't see closer from the board. So you have to prepare a place for them that they can see and do their schoolwork. And some of the parents are not ready for these things. They don't go out there, they don't talk to people, they don't encourage their children, they just leave them like that. So like that was the reason, that was the main reason. I met that child on the street. I said, wow. They said because of his color skin, so the parents cannot afford for him. I said, no, it's not because of the color skin. It's because you don't like the skin. And these people, they are just lack of melanin. They are human beings like us. It's just the lack of melanin. That is the most, that is the only thing that they don't have. But you can't say they don't have a brain. You can't say they can't see. They can't see far or near, but they can see a little bit. With the help of lens, they can see. And if you allow them to be exposed under the sun, they are prone to skin cancer, and which is very much bad. In Sri Lanka, skin cancer is killing them massively. Massively. Skin cancer is a major problem for us. And for the education, 90% of the albinism, they are not educated. They are not. They are dropped out from school because of provocation, because of lack of encouragement, because their parents are not focusing on them. So like, these are the issues that and we face. Like for me, I face so many things, and from childbirth, but I have to stand because I prepared myself when I was pregnant that any child that come out from me, I have to take care of that child. That child is my own, not yours. So I have to treat him or her nicely. So like when I gave birth, I gone through CS. I did not say, is this the child that this lady is so anxious to see? I said, what is wrong with my child? I think that the baby was not okay, or he was not breathing on the, just for me to see the baby is the color of the skin. I said, what? Leave him, he's my child. Leave that to me. And I thank God the father was so supportive. The grandmother was so supportive. That's helped me to go through it. And that was one of the reasons that gave me the courage to have another child from another woman. Because the lady is albino, but she cannot afford to take care of the same child with the same skin condition. That was the problem. And I have to take him. I went through hell, but thank God for Swapper, for my own experience from the first child that I have, my own child. That is the same experience I take to care for him. And I have to talk to the community where we are staying. I say, no, they are just lack of melanin. They are just lack of melanin. There's nothing wrong with them. And for now, they have accepted them. The children, they can leave their children to play with them. They are going to school, and they are brilliant, extremely brilliant, extremely, as really thank God for them. They are extremely brilliant. I don't take joke with their education because that is the key thing. And I also talk to them to accept their skin and love themselves. I told them this skin you are in, it should not be a limitation to what you want to be. You can be whatever you want to be in life, as long as you are ready for it. Don't let your skin limit you on certain things. And they have accepted their skin, and they have loved their skin, and they love people that are with the same condition. So I really thank God, and Shryock is doing great for us because we have meeting with parents, and the fathers are the issue in Sierra Leone. They don't want to accept these children. They do not want to accept them. They do not want to accept them. The fathers are the main problem. Yes. And some of them, their husband leave them because of these children. So they have to give these children out because they want to save their marriages. Sometimes I wait, I say, no, why? And I thank God for this program. At least I'm learning a lot from it. I'm really learning a lot. I'm learning, and I pray the voice go out. We have to stand for our children. We have to stand for ourselves. And we have to stand for those that don't have voice to speak for themselves. Because some of them want to talk, but they can't speak because of the society that they have found themselves, because of the community they have found themselves, because of the parents, the home that they have found themselves, so they can't speak for themselves. As for us that are standing up for them now, we have to continue to push, to move forward for them, so that the society will finally accept them as they are. Because everybody is unique in his or her own color. For me, I love everybody. You being black, white, yellow, any skin color that you are a human being. And you are unique in your own skin. Even your character, you are unique. That is who you are. That is your identity. So I can't hate you or discriminate you because of your skin color. No, that should not be the case. I so much appreciate every little gathering. That's why I'm always including them in school. Every activity in school, I make sure they are included there. I make sure they partake. I make sure they speak for themselves. I give them, I teach them to be bold so that they can speak for themselves. I will not be around all the time to speak for them. But if they are bold enough to stand for themselves, we are unique in our colors. This is who we are. It's just that we are lack of melanin. Then they can live in any society that they will find themselves in the future.
Thank you very much, Fanata.
Wow.
Ruby, you wanted to say something.
Wow.
But those are some powerful
Wow.
words to follow up
Yeah.
from. And thank you so much for those words. I think, yeah, quite a few people in the chat have said it. You spoke what a lot of people are feeling. I think if you empower people, they can live in any society and speak for themselves and advocate for themselves. Sorry, I'm quite moved, but what I wanted to say was just hearing everyone talk, I just wanted to touch on a few things about inclusion. I know Natalie touched on it, Mo touched on it, about inclusion and representation. Growing up, I think everyone as kids, we look to see other people like us, to see what we can become, what we have the possibilities of becoming. And when we don't see it in front of us by people who have taken that path, sometimes we don't see it for ourselves. So it's so wonderful now, like social media has come along. Growing up, I didn't see supermodels and models and IT people and educators and journalists and just lawyers and just so many different fields. And so when I was growing up, and education was always sometimes stifled because there wasn't accommodation, sometimes I thought maybe the most I can achieve was a high school education or a limited education. And I didn't see myself in a career. But as I got older and I saw other people, and now there's a platform, there's like worldwide, there's people in different fields. It's just a way to say that there's nothing that can limit you. There's, we can be whatever we want to be. The capacity to do that. And so it's so important to have representation of people with albinism in all areas and all walks of life, whether you are a stay-at-home parent, whether you are an educator, a lawyer, or whatever career path or life path that you want to choose. When you see people that have paved that way, it's a lot easier for you to aspire and dream that, because it's been done before and you're not the first. And if you haven't seen it, be the first. Also, I wanted to say, one thing when I speak a lot about equity and equality, I think equality and inclusion is a lot easier to achieve than equitable in inclusion. Yeah. And what I mean by that is, sometimes organizations, and I think Pinky was mentioning it there, they'll put you in a program or they'll put you in an organization and say, oh, here, look, we're creating equality. We're including people with albinism and people with disabilities to be a part of the rest of society. But that's not necessarily, or, we're allowing children to be in a part of a regular school system. But that's not necessarily equitable. What equitable looks like would be, providing the accommodation in that organization for people that have vision loss, providing education and sunscreen so that kids can go to school, and that's equitable, not just placing him and saying, a lot of organizations, they just to check off that tab, check off that list of we're inclusive. They allow us access, but access doesn't mean equitable or sustainable. You need to provide equitable opportunities. Children or people need sunscreen to get to school so they don't face issues. They can go to school and not have issues with skin cancer or burning. People who want to get to work need access to drive, and that's, technology is allowing that, but government needs to pass policies allowing us to drive so we can have opportunity to get to work. People, so a lot of, and again, someone was saying, not just looking at our disability, our low vision, but what about looking at our the things that we can, our abilities. We have so many other skills. I know when we lack a sense like vision, we have higher intuition sense. These are things that I've learned. So
Yeah.
that as an ability in organization. So I think equality is slowly moving to inclusion, but equitable inclusion is a little bit more harder to achieve. But I'm just really, all the speakers before who spoke, I'm just incredibly moved. I think, so thank you. Just incredibly moved by some of the things that people have said.
Thank you so much. I'm trying to monitor the time. So I'm just gonna thank you so much for this discussion. So I'm just gonna move on real quickly to the next discussion. Man, oh my God, it just feels like I just had a full lunch with all these discussions. Thank you for Nata. You meant I'm gonna touch one thing. One thing I want to touch about the myths about the women sleeping with a white man. Some
my
people,
God.
I'm just gonna touch on this, and
Oh my God.
I'm gonna touch on
it's
this.
like you read my mind. It's like you read my mind. I'm
gonna touch
wanted to
on
talk
this
about that.
because where I've read the articles, I've heard the stories, especially in the Africa region where women are single mothers, is high. Well, I'm not saying single mothers not everywhere, but single mothers, especially if you have a child with albinism, is high because the men abandoned their kids because they believe that the women cheated. If they take the time, if they have the resources or they have the initiative to sense maybe they carry the albinism gene themselves, and also would they not think, okay, let me do a paternity test just to be sure? Then if you are not sure, if you're having your doubts, check that. Because as I said, for me, I'm in a situation where for legal reasons I had to take a paternity test with my dad. It was for, I knew who my dad was, but it was for legal reasons why I did it, and my results came out positive. I got to find out about the albinism gene through that paternity test. That's how I knew about the gene. I'm gonna move on now. This is for the parents who have albinism. This is a question I have for you. So the PWA, persons with albinism parents, so that includes Natalie, Ruby, Pinky, I don't know, and Mo, Latoya as well. So all of you ladies, beautiful ladies, you lot are mothers, right? So the questions I have for you all: how does your children feel about your albinism? And did you explain to them about albinism?
Marvalyn, maybe before I answer that question, I just wanted to touch on the subject that you've just alluded on in terms of the fathers abandoning the mothers if they have children with albinism. I'm not sure if it is actually happening maybe around the globe where we are faced with what is called gender-based violence. It's very high. It's very high where a mother who has given birth to a child with albinism, and then she is alleged by the partner or the husband to have cheated on them with a white man, and thereafter the results is the child with albinism. It really, I don't know, it makes me hit the roof when I hit the roof, because I'm like, how on earth one can be so ignorant? It's because they don't want to learn about people with albinism, and then they jump into saying, you have cheated with a white man, you slept with a white man, that's why you're giving me this child. But anyway, we're not there. I just wanted to sort of like allude on that one. But to answer your question, I am a mother of two. I'm the only one that has, well, not the only one. I have albinism. Albinism, I've inherited the genes from my father's side, from my paternal side. So I have two of the grannies that have albinism from my paternal side. And then I'm the one, the youngest now, who has albinism. So my children do not have albinism. They have melanin, both of them. I remember, I think at around the same age, both of them, they've asked me. I remember my son, he asked me, but Mom, why are you white and I'm brown? And then my answer to him was, because Mommy is beautiful. I didn't have any other answer, to be quite honest with you. I just said, because Mommy is beautiful. And then come my daughter, around the same age as well. She's like, Mommy, why are you white and I'm brown? And then my response to her was, because God just decided to make me or create me the way that he decided to create me. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm different from you. And then it's like, can I go and ask God to actually make me white just like you as well? I was so moved by that. And I'm like, my child, you are brown, you're not going to change. And then it's like, but can do anything. If I ask him to change me to be white, I will be white. Just like you, Mommy, because I love you. To be quite honest with you, my children, I live for my children because they live for me as well. They are the most inspiration in my life. Those two people are the most important things in my life because they love me for who I am. They love me. I don't know. They say, people say to the moon and back. I don't know whether it's to the moon and back, but I know those two. I don't doubt them anyhow. And those are the people that keep me moving, that keep me going. Each and every time I wake up in the morning, I know that I'm looking forward to have or see these people, the next following day. And I love them because they love me. I love the way they love me.
Thank you, Pinky, for that. That was amazing. It's good that it's important that your children love you for who you are, not because of the color of your skin, but for who you are as a person. Natalie, the question that applies to you as well. Did you explain to your children about albinism and how did they feel about your albinism?
I will say I've always been completely honest with my daughter. She's now an adult. When she was young, I explained to her that I had albinism and what that meant. I was just particularly clear. One of the things I will say is we don't always know what happens for our children when they are at school. And one of the things I learned is that, her peers would ask her about me. And she ended up really being an advocate for albinism without even knowing it, because she would end up explaining what albinism was to her classmates, and which allowed her to teach them that I get to be me completely, and that I am her mom, regardless of what my appearance is. I think when she was a teenager, it was probably a little harder for her, acceptance wise. She wished I could drive her places. She wished I had different mobility, that I could see things that I wasn't necessarily able to see. And she had to work through that. We had talks about it. There were times she was really frustrated about it. And now, one of the things she and I did back in maybe 7 years ago is that we did a joint project together. She's an educator, and we did a joint project because she knew I was going to Tanzania. And I wrote a children's book to talk about albinism, and then her students actually created gifts for children with albinism. And it ended up being this really positive experience. So she certainly is comfortable with me and with my albinism. I mean, she loves me completely, 100%, as I do her, and it's a source of joy and pride to see her now as an educator making a difference in the lives of young people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Natalie, for that. Mo and Latoya, same question applies to you as well.
Okay, I just want to say kudos to the last speaker. Like, you got me over here clapping because you all gave the gifts and that your daughter was an advocate. I'm gonna agree with her. As far as my boys, I have 2 young men. I knew that this would be an issue for them in school. So teaching them about albinism, about my difference, why I look like I do, is something that I talked to them even when they were really small. I don't think it's just like with oneself having the albinism, you're not really, you know, you may see it, but you don't really care about it until other people may try to make it a problem. So I wanted them to be equipped with how to not just necessarily defend themselves, but educate. They knew the term, they knew what it meant. So when other children may ask, is your mom white? Because that's a question that they would get, is your mom white? And they would answer the question, no, she's albino, is what they would say. And they would explain what that is. As smaller children, I don't think little preschoolers and whatnot care. It's when they get to the upper grades and you have these children who now have adult ideals of race. Here in America, race is a very big deal around the world, but it's a really big deal. Even colorism in the Black community is a really big deal. So it's not necessarily, even if you don't have albinism, if your skin is too light or too dark, it's the problem. If you have hair that is this texture instead of that, it's the problem. So we have a lot of that anyway. And I wanted to make sure that they were aware of that. Color was brought to them actually between themselves from a teacher when they were in preschool. My son said to me, well, I'm dark skinned, and he says his little brother was light skinned. And I asked him where did he get it from, and it was one of the instructors in the class made that reference. And that's when I really start speaking to them about us as Black people having multiple colors. We make all colors, and so we're all one. That was important to me. I think what she touched on as far as them becoming teenagers and now wanting to do things and mom doesn't drive. Now having football games and mom can't see well, right? And that was one of my things. I made sure I went to every game. I might not have seen every detail, but when my boys looked over into the audience, they saw their mom, they saw my big yellow puff or whatever I was wearing that day. They knew I was there for support, regardless of whether I'm visually able to join in. They needed to know that I was present. And so that's why I want to say to moms and parents who do have albinism is don't let your limitations shy you away from being as supportive as possible. Making friends with other parents so that even if you can't give your child a ride, this person may carpool and come and pick them up. You have to, and I'm not saying to go out of your way necessarily, but just making yourself aware of those limitations so that your child doesn't have to not have or go through if it's not necessary. So we had an extended family, like we had other people that would make themselves available for stuff like that. So I didn't have to feel bad they would literally, you want me to pick you up? You want me to pick the boys up? Or I'm gonna come and pick the boys up. So just having that community really helped for us. As far as them noticing, the only question I remember is my youngest son asking me why my eyes move because of the nystagmus. He was like, Mommy, why your eyes move? And so you he finally notices, right? And I explained to him, but that's hard for a little toddler to understand. But it was enough.
Oh Lord.
Why it was enough, and he accepted that. That's the beauty of your own children. They love you with your makeup, without your makeup, with your glasses, without it. And then also my boys had to experience me going through my retina detached. So I had to have several surgeries on my eye. And there was this instance where they had to be my eyes. I had to go to the doctor. I didn't have a ride. I had to take public transportation. because there was an issue right after surgery. And my boys were my eyes that day. And that made them a little bit more, I would say, understanding, protective of, you know, knowing that they can step in where I'm lacking in that department, and that they did. So that changed our dynamics a little bit. I feel like it empowered them. And it also made me, you know, just feel good to know that I had raised my children enough to be able to do that and not be selfish. They never made me feel bad about driving, or if they were frustrated, they didn't tell me about it. And I tried to make sure that I made them have, that they had access to be able to do things that I wasn't able to do, which mainly is stuff like driving. So if something is way out, they always had a way. We always made sure we had a way. So I just want to say, having a community of people, have a community of parents and family that understand the situation and are able to assist, it really helped me. It really did.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ladies. The next question I have for the non-PWA parents, so Sitandewe and Fanata, this question I have for you. First, I want to go to Sitandewe because you gave birth to a beautiful daughter. The question I have for you, sis, is what was your first reaction when you saw your beautiful baby girl with blonde hair and her skin was lighter than normal? What was your reaction as a mother? Sitandewe.
Hi, sorry, I'm doing mommy duties.
That's okay.
Okay,
okay.
So the first time I saw it, I saw my daughter. It was unexpected, so to speak, because okay, let me start my story. We moved from where I grew up to go work somewhere else. And when I was there with my husband, we didn't have our parents around. It was just us. So when we get to the hospital, then gave birth to my daughter. And the pediatrician says to us, I think your daughter has got, I want his words exactly, not my pediatrician, my gynae. He says, I think your daughter, your child is an albino, something like that. I can't remember. And I'm like, what does it mean? Like on my mind, nothing is making sense to what he's saying. Then the pediatrician comes to me. Then she explains to me, you've got a child who doesn't have, who lacks melanin, and. So she tries to educate me while I'm still trying to figure out what are they talking about, you know. So and then we had to call our parents because our parents were like 600 kilometers away from where we were. So we're like, this is what is happening. And they're like, oh, don't worry. You're fine. You'll be fine. Whatever. I think they didn't know what to say because it was not an expectation, so to speak. But from then on, I think I always say when I speak my story is I'm very blessed to have my husband and as well my parents and his parents, because they embraced it better, so to speak. My mom is a nursing sister, so is my mother-in-law. So both of them were very easy to educate. I think we got our counseling from there for us to understand what it is. Because I remember I used to cry every day because I didn't know how to handle it in terms of how am I going to look after the child when I'm far away? You know, you start hearing things around, the things that you didn't know. So it was a matter of what is going to happen going forward. And I remember there's a time when my mother, actually, I think she's the one that changed my thinking into what I am today. I always say. So she says to me, okay, I want you to cry, finish. By the time you finish, then come to me and tell me exactly why you're crying. I didn't know what to say because honestly, there was no reason. I didn't know. And then she said to me, I said, no, Ma, but from what I hear, this is going to be very expensive going forward because I need sunscreen, I need this, I need this, I need this, you know, like you count so many things. And then my mom said to me something that stood out. She says to me, knowing you go to a shop, you get a cologne and a very expensive one. What is going to limit you from getting a sunscreen, which doesn't cost more than 200 rands for your child? And I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. And that day I was like, yo, actually, my mom is telling the truth. That's when I stopped. My heart just changed from the thinking around that. And then I became who I am today. And I'm trying by all means to instill it to my daughters as well, to understand that if any situations, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a person giving birth to a child with albinism, but any situation in life, you need to be prepared for it because there are certain situations that get you somewhere without you realizing that you're going to be. So to answer you, in the beginning, the first few days, or to say maybe a month, I wasn't sure. But as the time went on, I realized actually, because they took my husband, actually, the doctors took him to other wards to show him around the children that didn't have limbs, the children that didn't have, that were born without limbs or were younger, like the prams and stuff. And they tried to counsel him there to say, your child has got no problem except the lack of melanin. And I think they were trying to make us understand what is going on. And from then afterward, we were like, actually, they were right in telling us that, because obviously they were trying to avoid us hearing stories from the outside and stuff. I think with all this said, people that I think didn't deliver it correctly to us. Number one, the hospital that we gave birth to is a private clinic, and they've got this thing of taking pictures with for your children to place them on their websites and stuff. And this lady came and she's like, oh, you've got one of them, you know, like speaking to me in that while I'm still in that situation. So it became a big thing. And then for the other one who came, who said, what did you do? Yo, people are so brutal out there. The mother who came into the hospital to see their child, whom maybe if I can mention that the child was 16 years of age, and she was coming here to applaud the child. I was within my age to have a child and also married, so to speak. But this person was coming to tell me, I don't know her. She said, yo, people are so wrong out there for them to do what they did to you. Like trying to understand, what are you talking about? I'm in the ward, I had a child and a C-section, and you're speaking to me like that. So it was like, there was too many things that were happening at once. But I think my parents and as well my in-laws took me out of that. And today I'm different to what I was when I gave birth.
You know that part where you said about that last part, that I'm trying to hold my tears. I'm trying to hold my tears. I'm trying to hold my tears, man. Wow.
Well done, sir. Well done. I'm super proud of you. I am so super proud of you, honestly.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. That touched me. You know, that touched me. I'm trying not to cry. I'm trying not to cry. I'm trying not to cry because, you know, it's not only, let me just say this, it's not only us that's affected by the stigma, it's also the mothers. It's also the mothers it's also the caregivers that that also get this backlash, this stigma, this ridicule from either their spouse or family. But we thank God that you had the strong support. Also, Fanata, this question applies to you as well. I'm just going to wrap this discussion, and I'm going to open the floor for 15 minutes. So because of time is winding up. So just, I'm going to end this session, and Fanata, please share your question, share your view. What was your experience like with, adopting the child with albinism as a mother? How does it feel for you? Fanata, are you there? Don't think she's there. Okay, hold on. I think that she can't hear me. Hold on. Vanessa, are you there? No, I don't see her on. Okay. Now we're just gonna open the floor for 15 minutes because time is fast spent. So anybody who wants to say something, please, maybe 2 people to speak because of time. So 2 people, please, your opportunity is now to say something. 2 people for this floor because we're gonna wrap this up. So please keep it short and brief because we want to end this session very soon. So anyone would like to say something, speak now.
I'm going to say really quickly, I'm very grateful for this opportunity to hear everyone else's story. I feel like here in America, well, for me, it's only so much you hear about people in other continents and other countries. And so this is very important. I feel like we should do this more often, not just for this awareness. I know you do them all the time, Marva, you do them all the time, but I would like to be a part of something that's ongoing. I feel like so that we're constantly making certain subject matters, like just the colorism in the Black community, that's like 1 or 2 shows, part 1, 2, and 3. So I just hope that we can continue this on, and I want to thank everyone for their bravery, for speaking their truth. And because it's hard, it's very hard, it's very vulnerable to speak about this as a parent and as a person with albinism. So thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate everyone for everything that you've done to contribute to this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The floor is, I did see Kiama. She did put her hand up earlier on.
Oh.
So Kiama, do you want to speak still?
I'd like to greet everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening to everyone. My name is Siyabonga Mondli Koza from South Africa. The challenges we face as people with who living with the, albinism is that because kids, when you grew up, when they grew up, the kids from the Black society, they don't understand. So now, if they don't understand, because they don't have any way where they get teachings, some, like lectures about maybe from home or school, like maybe in during their life orientation, to get to be told and to be aware about any awareness about albinism, so that they get used to it, they know it. That's why when you come across these kids, they start like, because they only know that it's white English people. The only white person is an English speaking person. Now what they do, they call you with those names, like in our language, Zulu, they call you umlu, and then it's very insulting. It doesn't sound right, but they don't understand, they don't know, because they're not being taught from a young age, from school. There's nothing playing on TV that is like teaching the kids, as well as not only kids, but I'm taking it from the lowest level, because that's where it starts. And then, because when you grew up in a society, maybe like reaching the high school level, and then they start to, by then you normally don't have such problems because they're used to you, they even know your name, and all of that. So that's the problem we have. We need to put pressure on government and on the people who owns like media whatsoever, like television, our programs. It like albinism, aware people, everything about albinism must be out there. Cause so now when they're watching TV, when it's going to their adverts, there must be something that will give them a teaching that's, oh, now they will know that, oh, there is someone who was born with white color, or but who is not white speaking, who is not an English speaking person. So, and that will bring much more change.
Thank
And
you.
thanks.
Thank you, Sia. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're so right. I think education and awareness needs to be out there.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. But thank you so much for sharing. I think our hope is that young people, can start to listen to events like this. And even when communities across the world are not doing policy change, or government is not getting involved, at least through social media and internet, young people can start to listen to programs like this and build confidence. So thank you so much for sharing. That's so important.
Really quickly, first I
you.
want to thank you guys for inviting me to be a part of this panel and get to see all of these beautiful faces that look so much like me, in the various forms. I wanted to talk. We've touched on like bullying and inclusion and things of that sort, and I just wanted to put it out there that yes, a lot of us were bullied in some aspect as a child, but it has continued into adulthood. It may not take on the same form that it did when we were children, but it is still out there, and it still affects us in a lot of ways. And in order to be an advocate for albinism, you have to be an advocate for yourself and those with it. So I personally just want to say that if you ever feel that you need somebody to talk to, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. Just somebody to vent to, because it is hard being quote unquote different. It is hard adapting to society. Some people don't know how to answer those questions when they're approached with them, and having somebody else that's like you and in your corner help walk you through that is detrimental. Everybody has that, so we should be that for each other. Don't be afraid to speak up and speak out to those that are going through the same thing that you are, because you don't know if they are, and you just might be the person that they need, that guidance that they need. So continue to have these talks, continue to come together, continue to encourage each other, and let us be binded by that. Not just in albinism, but just in general, just being humans that stand up for something that we believe in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to give the opportunity to Kiyama. I don't know if she can hear me. If not, we're going to time is literally fast spent.
May I quickly say
Time.
something? Marvalyn, may
Yes,
I quickly say
ma'am.
something? Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
You know, one of the things I just really want to emphasize for all of us, while we are doing all the things we can to make a difference in our communities, and especially within the albinism community in terms of education and advocacy, I really feel like it's important to emphasize the need for us to tend to our well-being, which really means tending not just to our physical health, but to our spiritual health, to our mental health, all of the above. And when we operate from a cup that is not full, then we can't give to other people.
Right.
So I just feel like it's while we are busy being advocates and activists, please always make sure that you advocate for yourself. And that might mean just taking a pause periodically.
Agreed. Agreed. I think I believe on the 3 R's: reset, restart, recharge. It's okay to take a step back. It's okay to take a break. It's, you know, you need to recover, because you can't just burn out all the energy, as you said, Natalie. Definitely, I agree with that. I'm going to take one more person, and then after this, we was meant to have another artist perform, but because of, you know, internet connections and so forth, he wasn't able to make it. But one more person, and we're going to close this, and then we're going to ask each speaker to choose a speaker to share an encouragement word to. So one more person, and then we are going to move on to the empowerment of the speakers.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, Sylvia.
Hello. I'll be brief because of time. It's brilliant talk, and to have the ladies. I'm not putting my picture up because I'm ready for bed, so I don't want to be seen in my. But I think, you know, what was said, education, particularly with the health workers. I think we mentioned the schools, but I think certainly with the health workers, because this is where it all starts. You know, there's been some, you know, quite hairy stories of how, I mean, particularly when the mothers, you know, have their babies. Some of them have been positive, but there have been cases where they've been very negative. And I think, you know, as the albinism community, if they could be like, if a mother has a PWA child, where there's information in the clinics and that, where they can contact a certain, you know, PWA groups or mothers with other mothers with albinism. And it goes back to information, doesn't it? Because it's, you know, I'm not a mother, I don't have children myself, but those who do, having a child, I can imagine it is quite a journey, you know, and you're exhausted and all the rest of it. And then have some of the professional health workers who have been very unprofessional. You know, you don't need all that. And I really commend the mothers who have the strength to say, it's my child, I love my child. But others have been very frightened, particularly if they're youngsters, because of the reaction of these so-called professional health workers. And I think there's a lot of education there and information where, you know, it could be, you know, when you know, people do have, mothers do give birth to albinism, because it is rare, it doesn't happen often. But I think they should not, you know, make a big deal about it and make the mothers feel bad, or she's giving birth to an alien or something. That's all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. And thank you to everyone that's contributed and participated. Now the time has come, we're going to wrap this up. We're going to share an empowerment talk. Pinky, Ruby, you're involved in this as well. So each of you are going to choose a speaker to share a word of encouragement. So who wants to take the opportunity? So all of our speakers that's here, please choose a speaker to share a word of encouragement to each other.
I want to share with the parent, the first parent that spoke. I just don't want to mispronounce her name. Siyabonga. Is that her? No, that's the man.
Yeah. Yes.
Sitandiwe. Is that it? Sitandiwe?
Yes.
Go ahead. Okay. I want to say to you,
Siyabonga Khoza. Yes.
I don't even think you need
Or Sitandiwe,
empowerment
the
because
parent. Yes, Sitandiwe. Yes, that's correct.
What's your bongo? Sitandiwe.
Sitandiwe.
Yeah.
Yes. I want to say to you, you don't, first of all, need encouragement because you doing the encouragement today, but I want to say what you do, what you're doing, the words you speak, your passion about this, keep going, don't stop, continue to educate, continue to embrace other parents as you see them and put these words out here. It is very important that the children are given that they are made to know that they are empowered, that they are strong. Hey, beautiful, let me see that beautiful baby. Hi, beautiful, how are you? Yes.
Hi, oh my God,
The
yes.
superhero girl.
You made my day, this.
And as long as you stay strong and you show her and you have her back, she will be, and she can empower others. So I just want to say to you, really, thank you. Listening to you, you know, it reminds me so much of my own mom. You have to go in that school and make it known. And as long as we have moms like you, then, you know, we on our way. Thank you so much. Like, thank you so much. And your daughter is gorgeous. She's beautiful.
She's beautiful, man. Beautiful, beautiful. Who's next?
Thank you.
It's gorgeous. I didn't see Londi.
Yeah, who's next to encourage somebody? Who's next? I'm not gonna pick anybody, so who's next?
I'll go. My encouragement, it's to the group as a whole, specifically to my PWAs with children. Keep going. Keep pushing. You've come this far and you've raised great children. Let them show you how strong they are and how strong they are for you. I am a parent. My children are adults now, and I have been able to see, I've had those times where I was worried that I was bringing them up and showing them mom's albinism and encouraging them that I'm not any different than any other parent. I just can't drive. And it wasn't until they became adults. They're 26 and 25 now, respectively. And it wasn't until they became adults that I was able to see that the knowledge that I instilled in them about me is now coming through in their adulthood, not just in the way that they treat me and they advocate for me, but the way that they speak about me to the outside world. So don't quit. Continue to be those amazing parents, because we are more than albinism. We are parents as well. And our kids need to see that. And I love you guys.
Love you too, sis.
Latoya, we love you, sis.
Love you too.
I love you. Marvalyn, can I just choose Natalie for the way?
Yes, indeed. Choose who you want, as you wish.
Please. I'm choosing Natalie for the word of encouragement.
Thank you. Are you finished? Or
yeah, you can go ahead.
You can go ahead. Okay. Thank you so much. I would say this goes out to all of us, and it's really about being able to have gratitude and appreciate how all the places where we come from as individuals, and our really dedication and passion to furthering education about and awareness about albinism. And I just have a tremendous amount of gratitude to all of us for that.
Awesome, Natalie. Thank you so much. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
If I could step in, Marvalyn.
Yes, indeed. Go ahead.
My just gratitude and thank yous is really, I actually wanted to share just thank you for the opportunity to co-host with you. And I wanted to share my gratitude and thankfulness to Marvalyn, Marvalyn, who has been putting her time, effort, commitment, dedication over several years to make these platforms happen. It is not an easy task. It is very time consuming. It is hard work. And, we've gone for an hour and a half now, completely engaged, and we can go on for more. So thank you, Marvalyn. Thank you to Josh, who has been behind the scenes and making this happen. Thank you. There's a lot of work that went into making sure that tech support was there. So thank you, Josh. Thank you, Pinky, for co-hosting with me. And just to all the speakers, I know some of you have met before, and it's just really, it's dedication and commitment. And so thank you. I just wanted to share my gratitude really as a platform to everybody. It's been an incredible hour and a half to hear people's stories, here's people's openness in sharing what they do. It's not easy to share some of the things that we share, some of the aches and pains, but also it is a time to celebrate. Don't forget to celebrate all the accomplishments that we've had and how far we've come. So just thought I'd put my thankfulness in there.
I think I also want to say thank you as well, just to show my gratitude as well to everybody. Ruby, I must start with you. I know it's been hectic on your side. I know we've been communicating and you've been moving houses. I know how stressful that could be on your side, but I really appreciate the fact that you made the time and you've dedicated most of your time, for this program, to run. Thank you so much. Thank you again, our champion, Marvalyn Green, for being so instrumental, with the Yell for Change. I really appreciate you. I don't know. I really thank social media, because if it went for it, I wouldn't actually have known if there is somebody like Marvalyn Green or Ruby or Joshua. Joshua, thank you so much. You've been so good behind the scenes, ever since when we meeting, from the first stages of this, trying to plan this whole IAAD global talk. Thank you so much. Sorry, you've actually stood out to say, what, guys, I will handle every technical, things that are actually going to be, I'll handle the technical part of this. If there are any glitches, I do have a backup. Thank you for that, Josh. You really outdone yourself. And Esther, thank you so much. Esther is Tandiwe. Thank you so much for honoring the invite. I know that I actually approached you at a very later stage, but you still, showed, that sense of wanting to be part of this. I really appreciate you. And I see your husband is also on the chat. Londra, thank you so much for supporting Tandiwe. Thank you so much for supporting your daughter. I really thank you guys for so much. And everybody that is in the group right now, I really appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your stories. It's been very much uplifting and very much empowering. And I wish you guys all the best. Wherever you go, show who you are. Don't be afraid. Love the skin that you are in, because we are who we are. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think I run out of words, guys. I think I've run out of empowerment words, because all of it was so. I have to embark on a lot of things. I have learned. This is the first time I haven't cried on Albinism Talk. Wow, I'm so proud of us. I'm proud of the fact that there's work to be done. There's work to be done, and inclusion for me is critical within, not just within the Albinism community, but as a whole, whether if it's to do with your sexuality, religion, disability, ethnicity, inclusion is critical. It's critical. My empowerment message, I want to choose two people on this platform. I'm going to choose you, my right hand, Pinky. And I'm going to choose my other right hand, Ruby. You two ladies, oh my God. Both of you, when I tell you, you see, every time if I feel like there's ever a time I can call on these two women regarding Yell for Change, these two women has always been my support. I'm not even disregarding all the speakers. Everybody has played their role for Yell for Change, and I appreciate you. But Pinky, you are a true ambassador for Albinism. And Ruby as well, you're a true ambassador. And I want to say thank you, ladies, for being you, for being used in such a way. It's in such a time as this. This wasn't no accident. How we met and how we interact with each other. Because I'm not only spreading the yellow message alone. We are all spreading the yellow message. Whether if you're wearing yellow or not, it don't matter. We're all spreading the yellow message on albinism awareness. And I want to thank you all for tuning in today. Those who are streaming with us via Facebook, those who are tuning in via YouTube. I want to say thank you for joining in and be a part of this movement. And with closing, I just want to say thank you to Josh Sintra, and also for doing his part. He's worked so hard to help me with the technical side of things. I want to say thank you, Josh. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love you, brother. And I want to say thank you to each speakers. I know some of the speakers couldn't show up due to technicals, but the show went on. We were you blessed? Let's ask, were you all blessed?
Yes.
You were all
I
blessed.
was definitely blessed. I was definitely blessed.
We're all blessed. And no matter what comes our way, my encouragement is keep going. You know, I always believe every setback is always a major comeback. And let's keep the yellow flame burning. Let's keep the yellow light burning. Let's keep spreading the yellow message every day, not just on a June 13th day, but every day. Okay. Thank you again for joining the Albinism Global Talk with Yell for Change. It is a privilege to have met so many new faces. I love you all. And please follow Yell for Change on our social media platforms at Yell for Change. You find us on Facebook. You find us on Instagram and also YouTube. I do use Twitter, but not much. But most platforms I've been using is YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So without further ado, does any of our speakers want to drop their socials before we close?
Yep. You can find me at Black Girl Blonde Hair on Instagram, Blind Girl Arts on Instagram. The website will be blindgirlarts.com. I'm actually still working on it, but I want to say by the end of the month, I'll have some things up. I want to do a lot of inclusion type merch. So yeah, that's it. I don't want to talk over everybody else, but Blind Girl, Lord have mercy, Black Girl Blonde Hair.
Fabulous, by the way.
I'll go behind you. I am on Instagram at Black Girl White Skin. I am on Twitter at Natalie Devora, and same on Facebook. And I also have a Natalie Devora author page on Facebook. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Soul Sister.
I'm here. Hi guys. My name again is Latoya Freeman. That's how you can find me on Facebook. Latoya. Last name is Freeman. As far as Instagram and Twitter, it is going to be Total 615. TOTAL, and then the numbers 615. They are all private, so just send me a request and I'll get you guys added.
Thank you. Sitandewe, are you on any socials?
Yes, that's where Pinky and I met. I am Sitandiwe Ndlovu on Instagram and on Facebook. I'm also private, so it's a matter of, but I'll put it on the chat as well.
Thank you so much. Did I miss out anyone else? Did I miss out anyone else on socials? Okay. All right, that is it, everybody. Thank you for your time. Thank you for just being you. Thank you for being so beautiful. And remember that Yell for Change, we are a family. We are a family here. You know, we spread love, we let love lead, and we let love win. Thank you so much once more. And remember, Yell for Albinism. I'm going to ask you all to do me one favor, because I want everybody to stand in unity when I say this. The slogan for Yell for Change is together we stand, together we can. I want everybody to unmute your mic. Speakers, non-speakers, everybody now. This is the time, everybody to unmute their mics. Everybody to unmute their mics. We're going to say this together. Together we stand, together we can. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Together we stand.
Together we can.
Wow, that was amazing.
Amen.
Thank you.
We
Thank you
stand,
so
together
much.
we
I just want to say
That was amazing.
thank you. I just want to say welcome to my dearest friend and sister, Councillor Ifra Samata. Welcome, sis, to Albinism Talk, the Global Talk. Thank you so much for joining. And to each and every one of you, much love to you. And remember to celebrate albinism in style and have fun, and happy International Albinism Awareness for June 13, 2023. Much love to you, and God bless you.
God bless you too, Marvalyn. Thank you so much. And thank you, Shelby, for the beautiful music that you shared with us. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We love you guys.
The recording has
Thank you.
stopped, everybody.